Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Thursday, May 19th. This is Gina McGuire. Over the next week, we'll see a return of windy, cool, and showery weather across the Great Basin starting today. This windy weather will spread from north to south, with again cool and showery weather replacing the warm and dry conditions we've seen recently. The strongest winds will occur today and Friday, and still be breezy somewhat over the southern half of the Great Basin as we move into Saturday. Over the last 24 hours, we've seen showers and thunderstorms across Idaho and into the eastern half of Utah. Most of these thunderstorms produced wetting rains. However, some areas only reported a few hundredths of an inch of precipitation. However, fuels are still moist across the region. Over the last week, we've seen showers in most areas of the Great Basin with the exception of far western Nevada. However, most of this precipitation is considered below normal for what we would see during this week out of the year, with the exception of parts of Utah and into southern Nevada and even parts of northern Arizona where some areas have seen above normal precipitation. The water vapor satellite loop from this morning shows this strong area of low pressure now dropping south into the Pacific Northwest. Ahead of this low is where we'll see the stronger winds this morning over the northern portion of the Great Basin, with the strongest winds pushing further south into the southern half of Nevada and Utah as we move into later this afternoon. These strong winds will continue as we move into Friday and into Saturday. Also much colder temperatures and areas of showers and thunderstorms with significant precipitation for the northern half of the Great Basin, along with much lowering snow levels due to how cold the system is. Now looking at significant fire potential today, even with the stronger winds, we'll still generally see low fire potential due to the fact that fuels are still in green up and we've seen moist conditions recently. However, if we do have any prescribed fires, the strong winds will affect these fires or if we see any new starts over the next 24 to 48 hours. If we look at the individual weather components for today, wind gusts on the left and weather on the right, you can see these very strong winds over the southern half of Nevada into the Arizona Strip and western Utah, where gusts will exceed 35 to 45 miles per hour at times. We'll also see areas of blowing dust over the central part of Nevada and areas that have remained dry recently. However, showers and thunderstorms will affect Idaho, northern and eastern Nevada into Utah and Wyoming, with these areas seeing significant amounts of precipitation and snow in the higher elevations of the central Idaho mountains. If we move into Friday, this area of low pressure drops south into the western side of the Great Basin, again bringing these cool and wet conditions to the north and still very windy conditions over the southern half of the Great Basin, especially southern Nevada into southwest and central Utah. However, again, fire potential will still remain low with the cooler weather and wet weather that will move through the region. On Friday, the strongest winds will be again over southern and eastern Nevada into the southern half of Utah, where gusts will exceed 50 or 55 miles per hour at times. Again, we'll also see areas of blowing dust in the south with these dry conditions. Further north, we'll continue to see the wet weather affect the northern half of the Great Basin, with again lowering snow levels due to the cold temperatures. Over the next 3 days, the most significant areas of precipitation will again be over Idaho and the northern portion of Nevada and Utah, where areas will see above 1 or 2 inches of total precipitation, and you can see as you move south, the total amount of rainfall will be much less. Looking ahead through this weekend into the early part of next week, we'll see another trough of low pressure still affect the Great Basin as we move through the weekend into early next week with a series of lows, and this will bring continued wet weather, showers and thunderstorms, cooler temperatures to the north, and some breezy conditions to the south. Again, low fire potential will continue with this cool and wet weather returning. By Saturday, the strongest winds will be across Utah into parts of eastern Idaho and Wyoming. However, will be lighter than what we'll see over the next 2 days, but still wind gusts between 35 and 40 miles per hour are likely over the southern half of Utah. The wet weather moves a little bit further south, again with lowering snow levels even over the central Nevada mountains and into the Sierra, with thunderstorms also occurring in this region. The only area that will likely remain dry over the next several days will be southern Nevada and southern Utah, although these areas have seen showers and thunderstorms over the last several days. Looking into Sunday into next week, we'll still continue with a trough pattern in the west, keeping unsettled weather over at least the northern half of the Great Basin and low fire potential. We'll see showers and thunderstorms off and on as these low pressure systems move through the Great Basin, at least through Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. By Wednesday or Thursday, we might start to see a ridge of high pressure move into the west temporarily, bringing warmer and drier conditions by Wednesday over the western and southern half of the Great Basin, but still showers and thunderstorms further east. If we look at the overall forecast amount of precipitation from Sunday morning through early Tuesday, and again, the main precipitation is focused in the north, however, amounts will likely be quite a bit less later this weekend through early next week than what we'll see over the next couple of days. Now we'll look at current fuel conditions across the Great Basin. ERCs are still below the 50th percentile, with most areas still seeing green up occur across the Great Basin. Looking at our latest live fuel moisture samples across central Idaho and northern Utah, and you can see fuel moistures are still above normal in all areas. Looking at the long-range forecast through the end of May into the early part of June, we'll likely see cooler temperatures over the eastern half of the Great Basin, with more likely wet weather further east and warmer and drier weather as we move into the far northern and western side of the Great Basin. Again, this is towards the end of the month and the early part of June. Prior to that, we'll continue to see this wet and cool weather. That concludes our briefing for today. If you have any questions, feel free to contact us. Thank you for listening.